Hey everyone, it's Justin. Thank you for watching and welcome to my house. That's Justin's house. In this video, you finally get to see behind the scenes on how I did those OpenAI artificial intelligence integrations. So I'm going to start with the very beginning. When you're doing an integration, what you want to do is you want to set up a credential so that you can store that securely in ServiceNow and not have that kind of hard coded into your scripts or stuff like that. So what you're looking at here is a API key credential. Now, this particular OpenAI integration uses REST, and what they do is they give you an API key for your account. There are some other authentication options. I, of course, went with the easiest, and that was this. So that's that API key in here. It's protected. You can't see it. And then what I did is I have a workflow that is associated with a catalog item. So you can see here, this one is triggered by the service catalog. And what it does is it adds a work node, as you saw in the demos. We get the variables from the catalog item that someone put in for their prompt of what the image they want to see. I'm setting some flow variables, but the key thing here in this video I want to talk about is generating the image. So this is making the REST call to DALL-E or OpenAI's DALL-E. And so what I did for that is a custom action, okay? So each one of these things, if you didn't know this already in Flow Designer, are called actions. And ServiceNow has built out a ton of these where you can use them and drag and drop them into your workflows or your flows in Flow Designer and use them. I made my own for DALL-E, which you can see here, this generate image. Where'd it go? It went up to the top. Let me just scroll back up here. There it is. So generate image is the one I made to make this happen. And that action looks like this. So we start off with gathering some inputs. And my inputs are either going to be, I'm going to set them or I'm going to grab them from that catalog item. In this case, there's the prompt that someone's going to type into that catalog item. And then maybe they want 3 images instead of 1 image. That's an option. They can specify a size according to the API. And then I want to know the requested item so I can get that attachment, that picture, and attach it back to the requested item. So as you saw in the demo, it just shows up in the work notes or in the comments for that. So to make the initial REST call, all we do is get that credential alias, load that in memory. I have a base URL to talk to that API. So you can see there, api.openai.com/v1, right? Doesn't get any simpler than that. And I built my request manually to go to this /image generations prompt, or I forget what you call it in REST, but basically if you go to their documentation, you can see exactly how to use their API. And this is the structure. You can see there's the prompt, there's the number of images, there's the size of the image, and in this case it's going to respond back with a URL. I actually didn't do a URL in mine. I did a JSON response because some of these are pretty big and I didn't want to have to fool with like going and requesting a URL. So I did, there's my resource path that is going to get appended to this https api.openai.com/v1/images/generations, and it's going to be a post. And my headers that I need to put in there are the content type, which is going to be JSON, and the authorization is going to be my bearer token, which I just had to add the word bearer in here, and then I literally dragged and dropped my credential value, which is right here, it's right behind my head. So I just drag and drop that into there. So that's where we got the plug and play here in ServiceNow. And then my content was, I had to build out the prompt for the artificial intelligence to know what I wanted. So my prompt was one of the input variables, the number of images, one of the input variables, the size, one of the input variables, and then the response format, I went ahead and hard-coded as, hey, I want base64 JSON back, okay? So that gets executed. I didn't do anything other fancy there. And then my next step was to run a script. Now, when I originally tried to do this, I tried to use when you're doing these actions, one of the steps you can do is parse JSON. And that's really helpful for some basic use cases where you're expecting a small response, maybe a couple, 100 lines to go through. And if I just search for JSON here, you'll see it. That's pre-built. You don't have to do anything. This is JSON parser. Now that didn't work in this case because this base64 JSON string values exceeded the max string value when you're using those complex objects. So I went ahead and wrote a script, and I actually learned a couple of things here that I wanted to share with you. So let's walk through the script. First of all, I set up some input variables. Basically, most important is I need that payload from the REST step that I just ran over here. So that's me saying, hey, get that response and put it in a variable for me. And then I also want that requested item because I'm going to use that requested item to attach the picture to. The next thing I want to do is I want to do my own parsing. So you can see there, my result is going to be the method global.json.parse, and I'm going to drop in that response variable, which was my REST payload that came back from that REST step. Next, I'm going to loop through it in the demos, and in this way it's configured right now, I'm only getting one image back, but I've made this so that there's a potential in the future that if I want to allow more than one image back, I can. So that's why this for loop is here. So it's saying for every result in the result data, go ahead and set the image number, and the image number is going to be the I variable as we're looping through here, +1. I do +1 because it starts off as 0. So I don't want image 0 as my name, but then I use that to concatenate with the word image and make my file name. So in this case, image1.png. I know that DALL-E is going to send back a PNG image, so I went ahead and set that content type variable to image/PNG. And then my base64 encoded content, this is a variable I just made up, is going to be the result data that I'm looping through, and then I'm going to drop into that initial 0 in this case, or 1, 2, 3 if I loop this a couple of times, and I'm going to grab the base64 JSON. That's just putting in the variable. Next step, I'm going to create an attachment. So new glide sys attachment, and this is where the learning came in. The attachment method has it, or the attachment object has its own method to write base64, which was exactly what I was getting back from DALL-E. So I just needed to pass the record that I'm going to attach it to, which is right there, attachment record, which we collected at the beginning, the file name, which I created right here, so I've got a file name for it, the content type, which I created right here, the image./png, and then importantly, the base64 encoded content. That's the actual image itself. And so that runs everything. It creates the attachment, it attaches it to there. There's nothing left to do on the output because I did everything in my script step, and then it goes on with the flow. And so in the flow itself, there's another step that I'll go into later where we query the DaVinci model to get that poem, and then I loop through that particular thing, add a work note, update the requested item and close it, and update the request record and close it. But the real action that's going on that is behind the scenes that to me is not that complex, I think you can do this, is 2 steps in a custom action. Send your REST request, get that back as a payload, then run a quick script. I mean, look at this. This is 20 lines of code. It really isn't that complicated, and I was able to make something really fun that, as you probably saw, some people really enjoyed playing around with, and I need to get back there and play around with it too. But that's it for this video. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please like, please subscribe, or share it with somebody who you think might be interested in writing their own custom actions in Flow Designer so they can do integrations like you saw with OpenAI and artificial intelligence. Until next time, don't forget to always be learning.